Actually, our my very first interaction with Opti-Coat was at the rag company. We have a great relationship with the rag company. In fact, we actually introduced them to the automotive detailing market with bringing them to Mobile Tech Expo with us. And
Nice.
they also, Levi Gates, right about that same time,
Mhm.
started buying product from them, and it just kind of snowballed. But they were hosting an event when they were about a third of their current size, and Opti-Coat came in and they were featuring their no rents, and I just have created a relationship, and then up. Dr. G got recognized for the IDA Hall of Fame, and I was the
Mhm.
one that had the pleasure of calling him and letting him know that not only had he been nominated, but he had been
Yeah.
selected. So that was my first interaction with Dr. G, and ever since then, I've just really appreciated his quiet nature, just his passion about the industry, and yeah, so that's how I got involved with Opti-Coat.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Opti-Coat podcast, where we share stories from detailing professionals and highlight cutting edge products, techniques, and tools that'll help your detailing to accelerate into the future. Wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, please follow, like, subscribe, and share with a friend. I hope you enjoy the conversation.
Well, hey, welcome to the podcast. Another wonderful episode today. We've got Jody joining us from Idaho. And Jody's a man of many hats, but he wears them well. And so, Jody, thanks so much for coming on. Tug and I are excited to have a conversation with you.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
You got it. Well, hey, we would love to just dive right into asking you, how in the world did you get into the world of detailing? How has that led to where you are currently? And maybe along the way, you can share with us how you've gotten connected into the Opti-Coat and Optimum world.
Yeah, so I actually got into automotive back in 2005. Before I created Zemware with my partners, I worked for another software company as their national sales manager, and I ended up landing a custom application deal with a very large detailing operation on the East Coast. They have about 2,000 employees. And so we built a custom application for them to track all of their services, their employees. Basically, it was a mobile ERP system. And at that same time, my then sales engineer, now my partner, Rob Pusey, we landed a deal with Dent Wizard. And we built a custom application for actually back then it was they were owned by Mannheim. And so Rod went and chased Hale for 2 weeks. And so we have all of this kind of serendipitous alignment of us being pulled into the automotive, and Rod is a gearhead, restores cars and stuff. And so we just kind of got pulled into the industry. And then in 2009, we decided to branch off and create our own company um, after a buyout of who we worked for before. And we just said, you know what? We need to build a software for the automotive recon industry. And because we could not convince that company that they needed to change their model of how they approach the market. And we're like, we can do this. So we took the leap of faith and worked out of our kitchens for a year. We would every Thursday get together at one of our houses and have lunch. And all right, you go do this, you go do that. And we just slowly built the business. 2010, we hired our first employee, and we've just been slowly developing and marching. And, it's interesting as I reflect on it, the first 5 to 7 years, detailers and PDR guys, they didn't really want to talk about automotive. Or
Okay.
they wanted to talk about automotive. They didn't want to talk about CRMs.
Oh, okay.
And they just were like, oh, I don't need that. I don't need software. I don't even want to get my head around it. And so in a lot of ways, I felt like we were pioneering the market for automotive recon professionals. And little by little, the market matured and people started to realize that they needed added efficiencies in their business, because a lot of people were doing their invoices late at night or early mornings, and then detailing all day or chasing hell all day. And so that's how we got into the automotive space.
That's fascinating. Did you have a love of cars growing up?
I always loved cars, but I was not a gearhead, right? I'm
Yeah.
that car guy that can go to a car show and just like be enamored with the beauty, the lines, the curves. But I'm not a guy that's wrenching on the weekends. So,
Man, I think that gives you a good um, objective experience and perspective, because a lot of us, especially details, we talk a lot. We talk about this a lot on the podcast. We get so into the weeds of which tool to use and which technique, where you're able to come in and say that's great and all, but are you able to go to sleep at night? Are you you able to spend time with your family because you're so inefficient with your software
yeah,
or anything like that? Would you take us on a little bit of a deeper dive into RoadFS as far as the software, what that looks like? And I love the verbiage on the site you used about you got a soft spot for people in the automotive industry. What led you into that, and what does that look like?
yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, we landed that really big deal. In fact, it's interesting because in 2009 we jumped off. We had a non-compete, and to the day of the end of our non-compete, that customer reached out to us and like, all right, it's time to do business, right? And it's funny because as we were bringing RotaFest to the market, there was a lot of education. And I remember we were at one show, and our pop-up had, do you want your weekends back? You need RotaFest. And that was the tagline. And it came, and underneath it, it said, integration with QuickBooks. And there was a lady and a husband, and they were walking. And as she was walking by, she's reading the pop-up and kind of walking like that. All of a sudden, she grabs her husband's arm. She goes, sit down, because if these guys integrate with QuickBooks like I need them to do, I get my weekends back. So sit down here and you're going to listen to them. And that really struck me because, especially early on, a lot of the automotive detailers that we were talking to, they were really good at the craft of detailing. They were really good at interacting with their customers, but they weren't really good on the business side.
Yeah.
And so what RotaFest does, it gives you a CRM that allows you to manage your schedule, to manage your services, to manage your pricing. So like with RotaFest, you can have custom contracted pricing per customer, so you don't have to worry about it. We also work in very high volume. So we do the single operator as well as operations that have 5 to hundreds of users, right? And so they're looking at productivity, right? And so being able to have a system where you can scan the VIN, get a history of what's been done on that vehicle, be able to move forward, to be able to automate sending an invoice. So in RotaFest, you can have settings that automatically send an invoice to a customer's email based on the status of that that work ticket. So for example, you might open an invoice, do all the work, add the vehicles, add the services, assign technicians. You can track commissions if you're given spiffs or anything like that. And so we've really just leaned into what are the things that a business owner needs to operate his business. And we have tried to be very responsive to the market in that if a customer comes to us and says, hey, I need this in our software, we have taken the time to build that into the feature set. Now, the challenge is when you open yourself to that, everybody wants you to do it. And sometimes it takes you a little bit longer to develop some feature sets. But that's just kind of the nature of software. A lot of times people tell me, oh, well, it's easy. It's just this. Well, to make something easy in software takes a lot of foundational work. It takes a lot of logic. And sometimes when you think something's easy, it actually, there's a lot that is under the covers to make that happen. So we've really just tried to focus on making software easy to use, but have the tools that allow you to really serve your customers. And it's pretty interesting because, you know, in January of this year, we decided to buy Detail Bookie. So we actually own Detail Bookie and RoadFS.
Wow.
And the reason why we did that was we felt that Detail Bookie served the single operator really, really well.
Okay.
Right? It's kind of like software in a box for a customer. It comes preset and pre-configured with services and pricing that you can customize. It comes preset with email and text notifications that are all pre-built for you. Whereas RoadFS is really designed for a company that has 5 to 100, 200 employees, and there's a lot more sophistication in your operation. You might have different locations. You might have commission structures. You might have tiered pricing based on contracts with customers. And both of those you can, do online scheduling, online booking. So it's been really amazing to kind of see the evolution of our product, but then to bring Detail Bookie on as part of our family to be able to have options to our customers. So now we really get into that consultative sell where it's like, tell me about your business, because I have 2 options, and depending on what you need in your business, we're going to steer you one way or the other. So yeah, it's just been a crazy fun journey.
That's awesome. Always be creative, right? Yeah, and I've added some code to my Shopify website, and trying to just patch this or get this specific custom color or box, and then I can just tell it's not efficient. It's like my website loads just a little bit slower, so I can see adding code. Like, oh, can you just make this box? It's like, well, this is going to affect that, which is going to affect this. So I can definitely see the challenges. Do you feel like the company is at a place now where you're more responding to customer needs, or are you able to still have that pioneering creative spirit of trying to get ahead of certain areas in the industry?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think really right now it's really fine tuning what we already have. We're adding little features that really extend our capabilities. So like right now, we're in the middle. In fact, we've already rolled it out to about 3 or 4 customers. We've actually partnered with a company to offer integrated credit card payments into RoadFS, which we will eventually put into Detail Bookie once we get all of the nuances figured out. So that's been a lot of fun. because it allows us to offer more of an all-in-one solution. And we've also, in conjunction with this, we have a very large customer that's really pushed us very aggressively in this direction. But they also need to have contracts. So they have a subscription storage service, high end. And what they do is they store high-end vehicles, and in conjunction with this storage, they also offer a litany of services based on the contract. So we've built into RoadFS service contracts that are on a schedule, and those can be modified on an individual visit, right? So they come in for, a full detail and a ceramic coating, and then they have a maintenance wash. And when they come in, maybe they're offering additional services, or they'd like to add product to that they can sell in conjunction with those services. We've built that into RoadFS contracts. And
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very fascinating. I love it. Before we move on from that, Tuggy, your gears are going. What are you thinking? Oh, we lost you. We lost your audio.
Yeah, he's muted.
Sorry. My 2 kids are here, so I muted myself. I was trying to kick them out. So right now I'm just mostly learning, I'm just trying to listen and learn. But Jody, I wanted to ask you, and I know you're not necessarily, like Jacob talked about, the detailing nerds getting lost in the weeds. A lot of times, we get focused on the process, CRM. I would imagine when CRMs first came out, and I think you mentioned resistance, like, what am I supposed to do with this? A pad and a paper is good enough. For those detailers that are still stuck in the Stone Age, maybe, what would your advice or encouragement be for them to go from, writing their scheduling on a piece of paper to actually making the step to go with the CRM?
This is what I tell every one of them. Automation is the key to scalability, right? Until you automate some of your business processes and your flow, you're going to be stuck in that cycle of chasing customers, of doing the detail, of marketing and all that stuff. And so you got to put systems in place that will help streamline your life as a business owner. And I also tell every single one of them, I look at every product on the market. They may have a product that fits your specific business goals better than what I do, and vice versa. So go talk to them, get a demo. If they offer a trial, do a trial, but ask the questions about what you need in business. And what you're going to find is that the more questions that you ask, the more questions you're going to have, because inevitably they're going to ask you questions back, and you're going to go, oh, I hadn't thought about that in my business. Right. So make sure that you're having the conversation with whoever it is.
What do you think about guys who are like my shop? It's just me. What about someone who's like, I don't want to scale, I'm not looking to hire people, why should I still benefit from a CRM?
That's a great question, because I think a lot of guys look at it like, what, it's just me. It's, I got my customers, I can pen and paper it. But what I would ask you is really look at your week. Where are you spending your time? And when are you spending your time? Because let's be honest, a lot of you single operators are detailing way past 6 p.m. at night, sometimes into the wee hours of the night. And then you got to do invoicing after that or before that, right? And so I think a lot of times we really underestimate the amount of time that we're spending on our business.
Mhm.
And I would also ask you, what's falling through the cracks, right? Where are you going? Oh, crap, man, I got this list of to-dos and I'm never getting to that. And you just keep kicking it down the road.
Yeah.
That's where a single operator can really be impacted with software.
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me, initially transitioning to CRM was like, oh my goodness, I'm changing my routine, and I am a absolute routine. Like, I have to have the routine, and it has to be efficient. So changing it even to a more efficient routine is still change. It's still like, this is what I do. This is what I'm doing now. This is easier. It's easier to stick with it. It's going to be hard to jump. I know for me, after getting 6 months, a year in, my wife says, "Where's the invoices?" I can go in and email them to her. I don't have to look through papers and then, oops, I forgot to bring them home, take pictures of them and send them to her one at a time. I mean, it like having that CRM is just like in detailing or any business. It's absolutely efficient, and I couldn't do without it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times I actually have this written on my whiteboard behind my desk. Sometimes you have to slow down to go faster.
Mhm.
And when you implement a CRM, you're going to be introducing new routines. You're going to break some habits. You're going to build some habits, right? And so giving yourself some time to learn and implement that tool in your business right now, it may seem slow and frustrating, but it is going to pay dividends over the long run.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Would you have any recommendations, specific tools and software recommendations, all the way to just ideological recommendations for, okay, now we're saving all this time with CRM, the single operator to the multi-person operator. Now we have time for maybe follow-up, whether that's maintenance clients, or I just want to extend the life of a relationship with the client. What's that next step, do you think, that now that we're saving that time, we're able to go and go into that next stage of, whether that's follow-up emails or follow-up texts? What have you seen has been most beneficial for detailers?
Yeah, we've actually leaned into that both in RotaFest and Detail Bookie. Like in RotaFest, you can create unlimited email and text reminders, right? And those can be before the appointment, they can be after the appointment. So let's say you do a ceramic coating and you want to do a maintenance wash in 30 days. You can automate that email or text reminder saying, hey, 30 days, it's time for a maintenance wash. Click this link to schedule or give us a call. You can also do on demand. So, we just did 4th of July, blew crap up.
Yeah.
You could have sent out a 4th of July special and said, hey, man, celebrate America with 10% off ceramic coating, right? You can do fun things like that. And the way I look at it, the more you can automate, the more it allows you to give a better customer experience.
Yeah.
Right. Because how many of us, in fact, it's weird because about a year ago, I had one of our customers call us up and he said, Jody, man, this winter's killing me. We're mid-February and I haven't had any work. Is there anything we can do? I said, hey, let's do a little email blast to all of your customers and say, hey, I got some rare opportunities for some interior services. So book here. And so I'm like, we created the email blast and we sent it out to all his customers. 24 hours later, he texted me and he said, Jody, I just booked $2,400 in business. And thank you for helping me with that email blast.
Totally.
48 hours later, he called me up and he said, Jody, I've booked out my entire month.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so I think a lot of times we think we need to chase new customers when you got business in your current customer base, but you're not doing anything to engage with them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So with the installers watching the podcast, anyone watching the podcast who wants to get involved with RotoFest, I had two questions. If you could go into the details of who's how does the integration work with hosting emails and phones, and with text messages, we have all these new regulations that have come out. How does that affected RotoFest? I had another question, but if you can answer that, maybe I'll remember what the other one was.
So that's an interesting discussion. We've had a lot of discussions about text reminders of late, because it is the carriers are very concerned about spam. They're hypersensitive about it. We actually use a third party to help us with keeping ourselves out of spam jail, right? And
Yeah.
it's just it's a very challenging piece. But we try to, we lean on somebody that has expertise in that. And I think that's an important lesson, right? You as a detailer are an expert in detailing. Lean on somebody that understands CRM. Lean on somebody that understands marketing. This year we contracted a marketing company to help us, because I was doing most of it myself, me and Rod, and I was doing a pretty good job, but I didn't know all the nuances to Google and the algorithm and how they prefer YouTube over this. And I'm like, all right, so leaning into that expertise is going to make your life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it's hard, right? Because especially when you're a single operator and you're just starting out, you're really watching the dollars. Right. And sometimes a little investment, even though it pinches you, dude, it will pay in the long run. And so invest in yourself. It's just like how many of you guys have gone to a training when you really didn't afford it? You couldn't afford it. Yet you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna go to one of Opti-G's Opti-Coat's trainings or one other training, and you walk away not only with the knowledge that you gained from that training, but you made a connection with somebody that was at that training that now you have a resource to. So I think a lot of times we're reticent. I see a lot, oh man, I already know what I'm doing. I'm doing good. Or I really don't have the money. I don't have the time. And dude, when you take the time to slow down and invest in yourself, you inevitably will move faster. But biting the bullet sometimes, especially as a single operator, I get it. It can be tough, but you got to take those leaps of faith.
So leaps of faith, and I don't want this to get too into the weeds, because I know if I was asked this question, it definitely would. But knowing that you've got your two other podcasts, the Road FS and Dad, what's the other one called again?
It's called Father's Fire.
Father's Fire. Pardon me. Kind of going into that vein a little bit, taking leaps of faith. Like I'm a family man, Tug's a family man. We're running detailing operations through the context of a family. For the business owners that are either just starting out, they want to jump into that next bracket they know that they need to get to. But you also need to have your family on board. What have you seen have been some good, green flags that you can do as a detailer to go, okay, this is a calculated risk, or I know I'm going to go in this direction. I feel strongly to go into adding on this software, going to this seminar. Sometimes it's just a leap of faith, but how do you do that when you have a group of people that depend on you to take that jump?
That's a really good question. I think it really starts with having a solid foundation with your partner.
Yeah.
Dude, when we took the leap of faith to create Zenware, which is our company that creates RoadFS and Detail Bookie and another product. You know, it was a big leap of faith. I personally didn't take a paycheck for 9 months. I had saved some money, right? A lot of guys, they're working a job and they're doing detailing on the side. And it takes a lot of grit, a lot of determination. It takes a big leap of faith. But I think a lot of times our fear holds us back from the real opportunity.
Right.
And when you can, especially if you're doing it on the weekends and at nights, and you can see that your trend is going in the right direction, that's a sign that, hey, you know what? Take the leap, right? But you got to get your wife on board. You got to get your family on board. And because it really is a family investment.
Right.
I mean, we as dads, we as husbands, we put everything on our shoulders. We put everything on our hearts. And I think a lot of times we as men do ourselves a disservice. We do our families a disservice when we don't share that burden with our family. Your wife wants to be part of the journey.
Right.
She wants to understand what's going on. She wants to have the confidence that, hey, Tug's got a plan. Jacob's got a plan. Yeah, right now things are a little tight, but we're working together, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we get so focused on building our business that we neglect why we're working.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, my wife and I, we have a date every week. Every single week we go on a date, right? And a lot of you guys have fallen into the trap and the comfortability of, oh man, you know what? My wife's there for me. Dude, you got to take time to make her feel like she is the center of your world, and you guys need time together.
Right.
So go and spend some time together. It doesn't have to be elaborate. I mean, I remember when we adopted our kids, the first 2 years, one of us always had to be home.
Right.
Right. So we're like, all right, how are we going to do date nights? Well, our bedroom became our respite. It became our refuge because every Friday night it was date night. We would make cookies or root beer floats and we would go watch Netflix together, or we would go in and play cards together. Even though we couldn't at that point, and due to the needs of our family, we couldn't go out.
Right.
We went out and we dedicated time to ourselves, and it gave us space to talk. It gave us space to discover and rediscover each other and to lean into each other, to laugh together, to cry together. And I don't think that a lot of us men do a good job of continuing to pursue our wife after, many years of marriage. And so you got to keep that alive.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think that for people who aren't married, aren't in committed relationships, another great opportunity, which, even though I'm married and have a family, I actually still have the Opti-Coat family. And that's been paramount for me to be able to step into some new levels of success with offering different products and stuff. It's a huge reason why we're doing this podcast and being around the like-minded people that can kind of there's things that I'll talk with Tug about and Don about, that all the nitty-gritty detail stuff that my wife cares, but she doesn't have to care that much about the millimeter throw on a DA polisher. I think that's been great for us to have this network of people that we can share with as well. So kind of getting into the frame of reference of the Opti-Coat family, how did you get involved with OPT and Dr. G and Opti-Coat? What's that look like for you? What does that look like today?
Actually, my very first interaction with Opti-Coat was at the rag company. We have a great relationship with the rag company. In fact, we actually introduced them to the automotive detailing market with bringing them to Mobile Tech Expo with us. And
Nice.
they also, Levi Gates right about that same time, started buying product from them, and it just kind of snowballed. But they were hosting an event when they were about a third of their current size, and Opti-Coat came in and they were featuring their no rents. And I just, just have created a relationship. And then Dr. G got recognized for the IDA Hall of Fame. And I was the one that had the pleasure of calling him and letting him know that not only had he been nominated, but he had been selected. So that was my first interaction with Dr. G. And ever since then, I've just, really appreciated his quiet nature, just his passion about the industry. And so that's how I got involved with Opti-Coat.
That's awesome. Yeah, we think part of success is the wealth of good friendships and good working relationships. And we had Levi on a few weeks ago, and we love his journey and hearing about what he's up to, and Anthony as well. And so those are some great guys. Gosh, I had a good question. It just dropped out of my mind, so that means Tug must have a better question.
That's why I write stuff down, because my memory is crap. So obviously I don't want to necessarily change subjects, but I wanted to go back to what you were just saying, because that's the only question I have right now, about what you were saying about forgetting about your family. It's really interesting you say that, because I was in church yesterday, and the pastor was I'm kind of taking this out of context. So the message wasn't the whole thing about forgetting about your family, but it was in context. And he said his 4-year-old son asked him, Daddy, why do some daddies not come home, and be with their families? And then he mentioned, he wasn't necessarily talking about like fathers just not, leaving from the beginning, talking about fathers actually, being included, but they just work a lot. And he said, well, some fathers just they forget why they're going to work. They forget about their family, they forget what they're doing, and they just work and work and work and work. And then the family gets the leftover. And I mean, I can definitely relate to that, because being routine oriented, I like being hands-on. And sometimes it's easy to find myself with reasons, I need to stay here and do this, or stay here and do that, where, it's just a half an hour, it's just an hour. And then it's easy to then be at home, and then, man, there's one thing I could have done back there that I need. And then that's where my mind is. So it's so hard to fight that sometimes. And those reminders, I think, of being, of hearing that and having to be present, I think is important.
It's absolutely critical, especially if you got kids. One of the things that Judy and I did, is right after we adopted, we realized that each one of our kids needed a little bit of focused attention,
Right.
because the dynamic of our family had changed so dramatically. So Judy and I started having date nights with our kids. So Judy would take one kid out, and I would take the other kid out each week. And so every week, one of the kids was out with us, and they got to choose what we got to do. They had a little budget, and it's like, all right, where are we going to eat? What are we going to do? Some of them, they wanted to go to the park. Some of them wanted to go to Pojo's and play video games. Some of them wanted to just go have dinner and just chat. And those one-on-one times were incredible. And it pulled me out of an environment where I had to fully be present.
Right.
And so taking that time, not only for your kids, but also your wife, it's critically important for the health of your family, for the unity and love of your family, and the stability. So be purposeful in the time that you spend with them.
Right. And I just love how it ties into, we're talking about being efficient, the automation, the that's kind of the why of what you're doing, is really tied into the value and the purpose and the mission of RotaFest, and create kind of giving you your time back, and creating the one of the greatest commodities that we have is our time.
Well, and I think a lot of men get trapped in the mindset and the phrase, "I'm doing this for my family."
Right.
Are you really?
Right.
Are you really, or are you fueling your own ego? Are you feeling your own drive and using "it's for my family" as a scapegoat for being away from the family?
Right. Absolutely. That's great. I think the question that I remembered was tied into, you said IDA. We had Kirk Evans on a few weeks back, and I know you're connected with the Roundtable detailers of the Roundtable. You want to talk about that for a little bit? What's your connection there?
Yeah,
They're kind
yeah.
of in that same vein of what everything we've been talking about today, right? Like, take the bigger picture, look at your why, and how do you stay engaged when you are working.
Yeah, the Detailers of the Roundtable is a great organization. They're trying hard to create amazing training events that you can participate. They just did the Shine Time Expo in Houston. That was an amazing event. Obviously, it was its first year, but still, it was great, right? And just kind of the mindset of trying to create an environment of collaboration and of learning and growing. It's a lot of fun, and Kirk is very passionate about helping people and setting up things in place, and they've been collaborating really well with Rupaz and other great companies to bring good training events to people. The Aviation Detailing Association they've been working with, and so yeah, it's a great opportunity, right? And it's just like, the IDA, the Detailers Roundtable. You're gonna get out of it what you put into it, right? And what I've found is that the more I'm involved in industry events and industry groups, the more my network extends, and I'm blessed by people's ideas and innovation, and some of them become customers, some of them are just great, associates, and I learn a lot from every one of them, so it's awesome.
I love it. Thanks for sharing. Now, going back to what we were kind of talking about towards the beginning, if we can dive into a little bit of more of maybe a nerdy aspect. My brother's a video game developer, so I don't do coding, but I understand the world. And it's been fascinating to talk with you because you're so personable and you make things very relevant and easy to talk about. Maybe when you were first starting out, working with software and integrating into customers. I'm saying this from a perspective of, we as detailers can have a hard time using the right verbiage in a sales aspect for our customers. We'll get too into the weeds of process, tools, techniques, and products. How has that journey been for you and your partner, RotaFest? How have you found, how important is it to go into technical aspects, maybe for a specific customer in a specific moment, and how's that affected your ability to sell over the years?
Well, that's a great question, because I think a lot of us, especially if you're not technical, right? You get intimidated. You're self-conscious. And what I would say is just focus on the business problem you want to solve. Right? When you can articulate the business problem you want to solve, then it doesn't become a technical issue. I am blessed in that I can speak geek, but I also speak human.
Yeah.
And I'm not proficient enough in geek to be that guy that's in the in the dark room with fingers typing on the keyboard and fueled by Mountain Dew and pizza. I'm not that guy, right? But I know how to articulate to them the business use cases that I'm trying to solve in a way that they understand, but also I can talk to the business owner and say, all right, what problem are you really trying to solve? And so to me, it's not really been that difficult to sell software for detailers, other than they just haven't felt like they need it. Right? They're just like, they're intimidated by, oh, yeah, I've heard about CRMs. I'm not a techie guy. I don't need that. But dude, with the right company, the right software, the right communication, you can find the solution. And I would just say, don't be intimidated by what you don't know. Focus on the problem you're trying to solve and say, look, I understand I probably need a CRM in my business, but I am not that great with technology. In fact, I had that guy, his name's Dave Myers. He's out of Florida. He is an older gentleman, and he told me, he's like, Jody, I've never used software. I don't understand it. So be patient with me. I'm like, all right, let's talk about what you're trying to solve. And so I've been very on hands with him, especially the first 3 months. I'm like, let me help. Call me. I will help you use the software. Dude, that guy just goes now, right? Because he just focused on the business problem, and he trusted me to implement and configure the system in a way that would help him. And now, dude, I talk to him like once or twice a year just to say hello, right?
Yeah.
And so don't let your fear of the unknown shut you down. Just be willing to talk about business, because in the end, software is just a business tool. I mean, how many of you guys have never put your hands on a rotary? You're like, oh man, that's going to mar everything. That'll get away from you. But dude, with the right training, the right guidance, and the right application, the rotary is a great tool.
Right.
Right. But a lot of times we let our fear get in the way of us opening a door that could really open opportunities for us.
And do you think, with looking at different industries of marketing, I think one thing that's really popular right now is people are trying to rebrand a way of saying recurring clients. I don't know why they're going so far out of their way to try and sell people on the idea of maintaining their clients and bringing revenue in. It seems like something that's been around for a while, but that seems like it's popular in influencer, type culture. And just looking at the world of AI, taking a more global perspective on sales and marketing, do you think that with the tools that we have in front of us right now, it's impossible to keep up? Or is that really just getting into the weeds of how successful we can be with the tools that are in front of us?
I think that's getting into the weeds. I think it's easy to get overwhelmed. Oh, should I be using AI? Should I be using the CRM? Should I be doing email and text notifications? Stop the noise and go, all right, what am I trying to solve? What is the big hole in my business right now? And what is the tool that will help me address that situation? Right. And it's just like eating an elephant. Take it in one bite at a time. Right. And I think a lot of times we get so overwhelmed and inundated by all this information that we get paralyzed into inaction, instead of going, all right, what is the one thing that I'm really trying to solve? I remember, our third year in business, we were really struggling. We were like, dude, we had a really tough situation that year, and I found myself really frustrated and cornered, and and I was just like, man, how are we going to get out of it? And after I wrestled with the internal emotions and battle and frustration and animosity, all of a sudden, once I got it all out of my system, you know, a little voice in my head said, look, what are the one or two things that you need to do today to move the needle? And so I just started focusing on 3 things a day. And that's just been kind of my mantra. So what are the 3 things that are holding you up? And pick the first one and attack that. And once that one's attacked, then go to number 2. And if you get to number 3, awesome. And if you get all 3 of them done, then look at the next 3. But a lot of times we get so overwhelmed by the big picture that we stagnate in inactivity.
Yeah, definitely. Now, with that mentality, let's say someone wants to get into the RotaFest world, or the company that you've acquired that might be better suited towards their needs. If they listen to this conversation, they might have heard, okay, I need to work on getting into the RotaFest with the CRM, but then he also said Excel spreadsheets. I don't have, QuickBooks is what you said. I need to get QuickBooks going. I need to start doing the email and text. What's maybe their first step? And then while we're here, if you're interested in talking about if it's applicable enough, generally, maybe a little bit of pricing. So like where can we start? And also, people that are like myself that are trying to find the best deal on all these different types of softwares. I'm personally kind of I know that the things that I'm using, my phone integration, my website, they're all a little bit inefficient, but in the effect of trying to have something that's more cost effective, someone like me is probably tripping over himself with actually being less effective financially because of all the different things that I'm having to jump through. Where would you say someone should start?
Yeah, so I would start, first of all, I would look, like I mentioned before, I would look at the different softwares. Look at RotaFest, Detail Bookie, look at the others that have caught your attention, and really look at what they bring to the table, trying to solve a problem that's really tripping you up, right? Is it getting your invoicing out on time? Is it communication with your customers? What is it that you're trying to solve? And just start there, right? It's like, I think a lot of times we're like, oh man, there's so many things. And so like with RotaFest, we are very on hands, right? If you buy QuickBooks, good luck, right? You buy QuickBooks and they're like, figure it out or hire a consultant to help you. With RotaFest, we're very on hands. We will do as many demos and support calls as you need to help you learn the software, right? And so look for somebody that is going to help you learn the software, because it's like learning a new tool. As far as pricing, RotaFest starts at $65 a month. It's based on per user. You know, if you have additional users, depending on their role, it's either $10 or $55. And so depending on how your operation is running, we fine tune the pricing. And for our larger operations, we have site licenses, but that's all based on a consultation to understand how many guys and how many locations and all that stuff. So we just try to be as easy to work with. We do everything month to month with RotaFest. We don't do a year-long contract. We do it month to month. I want it to be easy to get in. I want to spend some time with you. I want to help you learn. And so we don't do trials because we spend a lot of time up front, right? Because there's a lot of investment that we put into you. But if you're not happy at the end of a month or 3 months, we shake hands and we give you your data and you're off to the races, right? I want it to be easy to do business with us, or if you're not happy, to go find something that fits your business. And so that's worked with us. With Detail Bookie, we actually have a 14-day trial because it's already preset as a software out of the box. Whereas RotaFest,
Okay.
there's a lot of configuration. You have to put in your services and your pricing and import your customers and all that, right? So there's a little bit more involved with RotaFest, but it's more of a sophisticated solution. And so with Detail Bookie, because it is a shop in a box, it has monthly pricing and it has a yearly pricing. But we just try to make it easy for you to come on board, and we spend a lot of time on both softwares to really invest in you having a good experience.
Excellent. Tug, you have any last things you're wanting to throw in the mix?
I was just gonna say I'm gonna have to. A customer walked in, so
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have to listen to your answer to my question or my statement. No, I mean, no. I just was just gonna say, Jody, we appreciated having you on. You know, I like the this podcast because we can kind of mainly get Opti-Coat out there and just the innovation and the technology and the fact that, I think Opti-Coat delivers a kind of an elite, elite customer base, elite product. And then having somebody like you on that kind of reflects that as well. Just, so, you can usually just tell when you start,
Thank
talking.
you.
Yeah, I think you guys are trying to meet people where they are. It's just from what I understand. I just think as a business owner, sure, the business is supposed to serve me, but it's also supposed to serve the customer rather than the customer. I just, in detailing, there's just so many detailers that they want the customer to serve them and give them, what they think the customer wants, or tell the customer what they want. And there's some things we know that they don't. And listen, this is what you should avoid, whatever. But I just appreciate your, iron sharpens iron. And I just appreciate you coming on and kind of, being open. And, I look forward to maybe having you on, down the road, get a little bit more in depth, with business, and just appreciate your, your influence, I think, in the detailing community, I think seems to be pretty strong.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed the conversation. It's like you said, iron sharpens iron, and I'm always looking for an opportunity to grow and learn.
Yeah.
My developers hate it when I go to an event because I always come back with new ideas.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's all about growing. So
Absolutely.
Awesome. Jody, was there anything you wanted to leave us with?
No, I just appreciate you guys inviting me on your podcast. If you guys need to reach out to me, I'm always available for you, and appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to us.
Awesome. We'll definitely ask you back on, and until then, we appreciate the conversation, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jody.
See ya.
Bye.